The message is that you're sitting here looking at a straight up miracle. And if one person walks out believing in God that didn't, then I can, wipe my hands clean and walk out. I'm good with it. And I think people related to that. And it's a true story. Like that's all I could tell people was there's one thing that's important here. All the politics is great. We need to make sure we do all that stuff. But God is in control of all of this. And if you're a stronger believer in that, then that's what we needed to tell you. And it was crazy, all of the support that came with it, all the endorsements, the Paxtons, Sid Millers, Ted Cruz coming. No one ever came out during any of the other races that we've done before. And God, it was almost like God showing off a little bit. Like, I told you to run, you were obedient, now watch what I can do. And it was just crazy to watch. It was a totally different race, felt completely different.
And you didn't have to knock 10,000 doors.
We couldn't. I couldn't physically do it. There were days that I did knock some doors just to say that I did, but I couldn't do it longer than 2 hours. I was physically exhausted for the whole rest of the day if I knocked doors. It just wore me out. But I did it because I didn't want to be like, oh, God's doing this, I'm going to sit back. That's not the plan. I did everything I possibly could do. We had people show up out of nowhere to help us, and were just adamant about me winning. And something we've never felt or been in that position before.
I don't think you said what you ran for.
We ran for, in the same race that we ran 2 years ago and got spanked. We actually came back against Reggie Smith at House District 62 and were able to beat him pretty well.
All through this process, I'd been writing those updates, and people kept saying, oh, you should put those into a book. You should do something. And I didn't understand. I'm like, it's sort of like Shelley's story. Like, somebody said, like, hey, you should write a book about Shelley going to jail. And Shelley's like, what? Like, I went to jail, I got out. Like, there's a lot more to it.
What's the story?
But the same thing with this, I was like, well, we went to the hospital for a while and we did a lot of praying and we got a lot of prayers, and like she got out. But the more I started thinking about it and realizing it, in fact, I wrote most of the book and then I quit writing it. And Shelley kept bugging me. She kept saying, like, are you going to finish that book? What's going on?
Well, because I was reading it to figure out what happened to me.
Wow, that's an interesting perspective.
I wouldn't have known otherwise. I had no idea.
And she kept asking me, are you going to finish the book? I'm like, I don't really know how it ends. But then I realized, and interestingly enough, the book ends before we won the race. It's not about.
It's not about the race.